I love stories that take place behind the scenes, whether it's a national cable sports show or the White House or a Saturday Night Live type show. I've always enjoyed it as an audience member, and I like doing it as a writer.
I think the show's going to hell in a handbasket, and I'm ready to fire the whole bunch of you.
Yes, but you won't, because we're all family here, and I'm just like a daughter to you.
It's still a family show. They're all family shows that he does. There are these people who are families. There's usually what seems to be a mother and a father. There are children, there are aunts and uncles. They're families. He writes them in the context of work, but the emotion that you feel is the family.
I mean, it could be any workplace. This one happened to be, in the world of sports.
When I pitched the show, I didn't have anything yet. When I was brought into Jamie Tarsis's office at ABC, Jamie at the time was the president of ABC, and I wasn't able to pitch the show to her. I said that I wanted to do a series, a half-hour series, that took place behind the scenes at a national cable sports show. But I have no idea who the characters are going to be. I can't tell you what's going to happen in the pilot. I can't pitch out the first half dozen episodes for you. I don't have anything yet.
I've been thinking about this for a while. I want you to know that I've given this some thought.
I think yesterday's got to go in the first sentence. I'll tell you why.
I'm thinking about leaving the show.
I opened up the newspaper, and it turned out the night before, Charles Barkley, who at the time was playing power forward for the Phoenix Suns, had thrown a guy through a window at a bar. I called my friend in New York so that we could laugh about this, but he just wasn't in a mood to laugh because he was going through a divorce at the time. And he had a 7-year-old son, and he and his son bonded a lot over sports. And for some reason, what was on his mind right now at that moment was, if I'm not going to be around, the father isn't going to be around as much as he usually is. These guys are his male role models. What's going to happen to my son now, who looks up to a guy who throws, who does these kinds of things?
Sacramento power forward Jason Grissom was released by a judge in Houston this morning after posting a $5,000 bond. I got into this because I like getting people to like sports. And I've turned into a PR man for punks and thugs.
He was telling me this story. I got in my car to go to the deli where this breakfast meeting was supposed to be. And by the time I got there, I had the idea for the pilot.
And that was always fascinating to me, that Aaron was always grabbing from the world around him.
Good evening, everybody from New York City. I'm Dan Rydell alongside Casey McCall. Those stories and more. Plus, we'll take you live to the locker room at Arrowhead.
All that coming up after this. You're watching Sports Night on CSC, so stick around.
I was sent the script by my agent. He said, it was pilot season, and said, I'm going to send you a couple of scripts tonight, both written by the same guy, Aaron Sorkin. I went, Aaron Sorkin, A Few Good Men. I sort of knew about him, loved his writing, and thought, okay, he's written 2 pilots. Wow, that's great. And it was West Wing and it was Sports Night.
And there's kind of a drumbeat that goes out for the good pilots. The word is like wildfire. And that year it was Sports Night. Everyone's going, this pilot, Sports Night, Sports Night, Sports Night.
Now anything Aaron writes is by definition going to be a hot pilot that everybody wants to get in on.
I'm telling you, these 2 scripts are the best 2 scripts I have ever read in my life. And here in one night, these 2 incredible scripts. And I said, you've just got to get me a meeting.
Well, I know that ABC was very concerned about my limited television experience, and I was concerned about my limited television experience.
Truth of it is, it was just the opposite for me. I was so excited about somebody who was a playwright, who had this incredible voice, who was coming to this medium without any preconceived notions of the way it should be done or it shouldn't be done, and was unaware of some of the rules.
Chris, can you get with graphics?
On it.
Will?
Control room.
Yes. What are you doing?
What?
What are you 2 doing?
Us?
Yes?
We're standing here.
It was really the first show of the modern era that got past sitcoms and really started to break the storytelling in a much more complex way.
You can't stand in the rain without an umbrella?
Yes, Jenny, I learned when I was young that if I do that, I'll get wet.
And I learned when I was young, if I get wet, I'll dry off.
The Sports Night pilot was greenlit by ABC, and the first thing I had to do was hire a director. I met with a very famous, extremely well-credentialed director of half-hour television. And we had a terrific meeting, but he said to me in this meeting, this is an unusual pilot script for a half hour. It doesn't have the rhythms of a sitcom. There was just a lot that was different about it, a lot that was unfamiliar. Unfamiliar with television isn't a good thing. We're going to need to figure out how to take this and kind of change it into something that seems more like a traditional sitcom. So the meeting ended, and I thought it went great. And the next day, I was supposed to meet with Tommy. If you were to direct the pilot, what are the kinds of things that you would do to make it more like a traditional half-hour sitcom? And he said, nothing. I want to do this. And I said, okay, you're hired.
Tommy had the ability to visualize Erin's words and do it in a way that just opened up a whole new world to all of us.
He's a great director, and they are few and far between. He understands how actors work, and he understands what they need and what the moment needs.
Well, actually, I'll quote Mark Twain, if you don't mind, who said that the greatest gift a man can give, other than his love, is his labor. And it seems to me that Tommy's given us both. I think that one of the reasons that my partnership with Tommy has worked so well is that neither one of us wants to do the other person's job. Here's to you.
Sports Night was seminal in creating this kind of hybrid experience where it doesn't really matter if it's a comedy or a drama.
Chuck?
Casey!
Cut man?
Yes, sir.
How many rounds?
12 rounds in the bout, Casey.
Yes, I meant how many of those do you think they're actually going to have to... How long is the fight going to be?
It's going to go the distance, Casey.
It has elements of both, and there are appropriate moments to laugh.
Contestants in the Miss America pageant have to come from one of the 50 states.
Well, I hate to correct you on your own show, Casey, but there's 52 states with Alaska and Rhode Island.
And there's appropriate moments to just absorb.
My father and I used to have this thing when we watched boxing. He'd sit in his chair, and I'd sit on the floor next to him.
You didn't have a chair?
No.
What about your mom's chair?
This wasn't all in the family, Casey. There was a chair and there was a couch.
And I thought that what it was going to do is break new ground and create a new template for what a half hour could be.
I don't think it was hard to articulate the sort of different Pirandello, to excuse my literary reference, but the different levels of reality here. Of there's a show, then there's a show behind the show, then we're doing a show about behind the show of a show. That I think what you have to start with is to make sure that the show feels real.
Good evening from New York City. I'm Casey McCall alongside Dan Rydell, and this is Sports Night.
I grew up on MASH and really revered what Larry Gelbart did with MASH, because what he did was he said, look, if you just start from a place of reality, we don't have any idea whether the set of MASH, whether that's really what an army hospital in Korea in the Korean War looked like or not, but it sure seemed real to us.
Oh, I think Erin came up with the line that Sports Night is to sports what Charlie's Angels is to law enforcement.
It wasn't meant to be autobiographical or journalistic in any way.
But it did have a reflection on the way that we live our lives, which is that we think the funniest moment can lead to something that's very painful or very emotional or very tragic.
He's dying?
Yes.
You got this off the wire?
Yes.
Did it say what he's dying from?
What he's dying from?
Yes, a rare and fatal disease, perhaps, that we can serve to bring public attention to.
He's dying from having been alive for 98 years.
Casting was so much fun because we got to see so many great actors.
Dana, you've either got to stand over that woman's shoulder or you have to call everyone in the Pacific time zone and tell them I'm not really like this.
Oh, the thing is, Jeremy's gone now, the cards are still hot, and I'm feeling like I might be just a little somewhere in the vicinity of the zone, and you know what that means?
Please don't say it.
Shoe money tonight!
Felicity Huffman, I knew from New York.
And I think I called my friend Clark Gregg, who was in Erin's play, A Few Good Men in New York, and I got Clark to call Erin to see if I could come in and audition. And I got the script through weird, circuitous ways. And I did get an audition and met Robert Guillaume there.
She was there that day, Felicity Huffman. And so she immediately made me feel good by telling me that they would be damned lucky to get me. How much do you love me?
We got him.
I'm asking you right now, at this very moment, how much do you love me?
Isaac? Aaron writes fantastic women's parts, partly because he understands women, and I think partly because he idealizes women.
You're screwing up my show, Casey.
I know for me, the role that was the most important to cast was Felicity. The show couldn't work without that.
Casey, sit down. Now, I know you think that there are 250 other people in this
No, I
business
don't
who
think
could
there are
produce this show.
250
Yes,
other
you do.
people
Whether
who
you're
can
right,
produce
whether
this
you're
show.
wrong, I'm the one that has the job, and I love it.
Here's a show about sports that the true lead character is a woman.
I loved it. I love being surrounded by boys. He wrote Dana Whitaker as the girl who's in the boys' camp, you know. She gets in the boys' club. So you're the cool girl in the boys' club, which I loved.
Forgot my purse.
Dana Whitaker was professionally an ace and personally kind of a mess. And those are always interesting parts to play.
Once I started working with Felicity, which was one of the true, professional joys of my life, it was so clear that not only could she, play this character, she could also hold up this show.
You're depressed, you're angry, you're lonely, and you're frightened. But God, everything will be fine if I could just see Dana naked.
Oh, Dana, believe me, I have no desire to see you naked.
Excuse me?
Look, that came out wrong.
Make it come out right.
Look, of course I want to see you naked.
Louder.
I want to see you naked.
I can't hear you.
I want badly to see you naked.
Yeah, you better want to see me naked.
She was a dream. And she was kind of a klutz and kind of silly and said dumb things and went over the top a lot. I mean, she's just great. I think, if not the favorite, she's one of my favorites. I think she might be my favorite. I could have played her for a lot of years.
My show is on. My show is on. My show is on.
I don't think any of us who worked with her back on Sports Night were the least bit surprised when she got nominated for an Academy Award a couple of years ago. She's a phenomenally gifted actress and so professional and so much fun to spend a long day and night with.
JJ, Danny and I have hosted shows in the 5th and 3rd largest markets in the country, and we've received awards for journalistic excellence. I'd prefer not to take my instructions from 11-year-olds.
It turned out coincidentally, Peter Krause, who plays Casey McCall, I was a bartender with in New York.
We were at the Palace Theater at the time where La Cage aux Folles was playing. I never took part in the reading of A Few Good Men that he was doing at the West Side Playhouse. And a couple of years later, there I was bartending at A Few Good Men.
You guys know what you're doing?
Yes.
Yes.
In 3, 2.
Good
evening from New York City. I'm Casey McCall alongside Dan Rydell.
In casting Aaron's material, I've always felt that, the symphony is not the piece of music is not uniquely different, but the orchestration can be very different. In other words, the difference between those two characters is not monumental.
Those stories plus.
When I read the pilot, I responded to the Dan character. Just really, really liked it.
The chemistry between Peter Krause and Josh Charles was terrific.
You know what today is?
It's Monday.
What else?
It's November 23rd.
And what does that mean? Come on.
November 23rd.
They became competitive, but in a good way and in a funny way.
What happened on this date?
Boston College upsets Notre Dame.
Wrong.
Gretzky's 500th goal.
Think.
Alberto Salazar wins his 4th New York Marathon.
No.
Alberto Salazar wins his 3rd New York Marathon.
Casey, you're not...
Does it have anything to do with Alberto Salazar or the New York Marathon?
No.
I would say that you would see inklings of Peter in the relationship with Dan. I mean, Josh and I they got lucky with the casting there because Josh and I remain great friends today, and we became great friends rather quickly.
Dan had this sort of, very dry sense of humor, and in this sort of zany family was this sort of, this loyal figure in somewhere in the middle of all the chaos who's there with his sensibility and his humor.
Maybe Casey was a strange shadow of life to come for me in some ways, because I do love the workplace. I like set life. I've gone from one series to another since Sports Night.
Anytime you would see us in the control room where Felicity and Josh and Sabrina would be, and you'd see us in the monitors, we would have to be there. Even if we weren't a part of the scene, we'd basically be background in the scene.
Let me take one more stab at it.
Go.
Alberto Salazar wins his 2nd New York Marathon.
Casey.
Well, what? Come on, what is it?
Forget about it.
Come on.
No, forget
Come
about
on.
it. Forget about it.
Come on.
Aaron was like, there are two guys who are very good at what they do, who form this relationship, and we'll find the conflict in them.
You had sex with a woman?
No.
Yes.
No.
You did?
I didn't.
You went to a woman's apartment, and there you had wine, and there you had sex.
You are way off base. That is not what happened, except, yes, that's what happened.
And we just sit out there for hours and just try to make each other laugh.
You got a spot or something?
So our rapport was instantaneous, and the rhythm and the banter was there from day one.
So you really don't understand?
No.
Then I'm gonna have to spread it out for you in a nutshell.
Okay.
I was riding the elevator a couple of weeks ago.
Riding up to work?
No, Casey, just riding around. Listen, you don't have to ask questions. I'm gonna tell the story clearly. The things you need to know, I'm gonna tell you.
It was just good casting. You know, they found two guys that got along, but also like to mess around with each other and see if they could get the other one to laugh.
Anyway, that was it in a nutshell. You understand now?
Actually?
Yeah.
No.
In 3, 2.
Welcome back.
Josh Molina, I had known since my first professional job, which was the play A Few Good Men in New York.
You know, I don't think I let Aaron get out much of a description of Jeremy because I didn't really care. If he wanted me on the show, you know, I didn't care whether he was the janitor or the associate producer or the serial killer. It didn't really matter to me.
I have seen Sports Night every night since your first broadcast, 2 years, 2 months, and a week ago today.
I liked doing the pilot episode. Jeremy was so off the wall and so completely wound up and so uptight as he was interviewed by Dana, by Felicity. Felicity Huffman and Sabrina Lloyd had already been cast in their roles, and they both came and auditioned with me.
I can tell you what Ewing and Oakley are shooting from the field, and that you're not going to stop John Starks if he squares up to the basket and put any defensive pressure on Charlie Ward. He's going to fold like a cheap card table. But if you're asking me for genuinely sophisticated analyses, and I sense that you are, you got to give me some time, at least 20 minutes.
Actually, I don't even know why, but it was incredibly generous and nice of them. I'm not from the great auditioners, but having these two great actresses kind of help me out was wonderful.
Raise 50.
Natalie. And then there were 2.
Josh is a really big poker player, and that was the first time I learned how to play Hold'em.
Josh Molina, great poker player. That became also very funny when we'd get called away from the poker game and you'd hear this group moan, "Oh, we got to go back to work, you know, we got a poker game to play."
I've got a straight. You've got 3 sevens.
You don't have a straight.
Look at me. I'm not lying to you. I have a straight.
How do you know I don't have a big house?
I think that Natalie was the part that we had the most difficulty casting. We saw a lot of actresses who came in until one day this girl who none of us knew, Sabrina Lloyd, came in and she started reading the scene, but she just kind of hopped up on a table and was reading it and was so incredibly comfortable in her own skin, wasn't trying to be cute, she just was.
Thursday, you're going after deer. Deer get very big in the Adirondacks, so please be careful.
And funny and smart, and she was exactly what we wanted.
You can't run any report, Natalie. You got a baggage handler and a chambermaid. No one's saying this is happening.
You want to leave the room?
No.
Then allow for the possibility that from time to time, other people might be at least as smart as you are.
Robert Guillaume was one of those situations where I said to the casting directors, we need someone like Robert Guillaume.
Robert Guillaume, I met, I think it was my second or third audition, and I walked out of Tommy and Aaron's office, I guess it was, and I walked out and I went, "Well, Mr. Guillaume, I blew that audition, and I'm mainly sorry because I won't get to work with you." And he went, "Oh, honey, we're going to see what happens."
And while there are many programs here at CSC and there's nothing wrong with healthy competition, we are all a family, and we are to treat each other with professional respect.
And they said, "Well, what about Robert Guillaume?" And I said, "Well, hey, Guillaume's never going to be interested in this." And, the next day, we had Robert Guillaume.
I welcomed it. Benson could never escape the gimmickiness of the role, whereas Isaac was a guy who had finally worked up to where we saw him. There was something about that was very legitimate to me.
Elliot, Kim, the production team is in fact a team, and you will work with and for whomever Dana tells you to.
Thank you.
Shut up.
Okay.
I don't mean to belittle what we all do, because I know people say, "Oh, you make it look easy," but he really does. And for those of us that do it, we know it can be hard, and it's tricky. He has a real gift, and I think his Like I said, his humanity just shines through, I think, in anything you see him do.
It was an ensemble that really fit together great.
Again, I go back to the orchestra. They play different instruments, but the one thing they have in common is they have this uncanny ability to sort of take something that is, pretty heavy lifting and make it feel like it's just coming from themselves.
Fire me.
What?
Fire me. Do it now.
Why?
I'm a bad worker.
No, you're not.
I come late. I leave early.
You come early and you stay late. You come in on your days off.
And isn't that a little weird?
Oh, yeah.
Nobody works harder than Aaron. I mean, he's there later than everybody, and he gets there earlier than everybody.
This one guy was writing all the episodes of an hour drama and all the episodes of this groundbreaking half-hour comedy.
Natalie.
Men harbor this illusion that they can cover up their, with this other thing, but women always know.
No, they don't. You know why not? Because women don't have special powers. Let's dispense with that theory right now. Women don't have a sixth sense. Women don't have intuition. They don't have special powers.
I always loved the sound of smart people arguing with each other. And I wanted to imitate that sound when I wrote.
He's interested in good people being great. And he's trying to figure out at all times the best in all of us.
Tommy really respected Aaron's words, and anything visually that he did enhanced those words. And I think that's a great sign of respect for what Aaron did, but also a great sign of respect for the actors that knew how to deal with those words on the page.
I was so impressed with the writing that I knew I was in good hands and that I didn't have to invent anything else.
How do you know I even want your job?
Everybody wants my job.
Not me. I think your job stinks. You get to create your own show and make all the decisions and have a big staff and make a lot of money. That's not for me, Isaac. I like to answer to people. I don't want to create. When I get a thought in my head, I like it to die right there.
It's fertile ground for an actor. He writes that way, so your character comes in and is incredibly articulate and good at their job and passionate.
George Mallory, Edmund Hillary, Magellan, Balboa, Desmond Corey, you and I. And I don't think anyone should tell us how high we can climb.
Aaron did a really good job of making the character a real person, as he did with all of them. He just gave depth and emotional complexity to all the characters.
I admired the show from the get-go just for that ambition. That I think one of the things that Aaron doesn't do is he doesn't pander to an audience. He writes intelligent people doing intelligent things.
The characters are in every way more interesting than I am, I think, and that's why I like writing. I get to do a second and third draft most of the time.
What about Sally?
That wasn't dating.
Oh, we slept together almost every night for 3 months.
Thanks for reminding me.
Dana.
That wasn't dating. That was two lonely and pathetic people slinking off after a crappy little 2 a.m. show, getting drunk and using each other for sex.
That's not dating?
Aaron reminded me a little of Bach, that he wrote in these fugues, and you'd see themes develop and coalesce, but until you got to the end of the script, you never knew what the major theme was going to be.
Great writers write what they know and what's going on in their life. He wrote what was happening for him in that moment, whether it was about the network or about Robert Guillaume's stroke or just about what he needed to say from his own psyche.
Aaron hears voices. I don't know if that makes him crazy or a really good writer, and he hears rhythms very specifically.
I think it was just really a challenge to listen to the rhythms, but I think also you always had to make sure that the words that Aaron wrote were the words that he heard, because he really has such a tremendous respect for the spoken language.
It's not time to dally with Sally.
Dan?
That was an unfortunate rhyme, but still.
The rhythm of his writing never felt sedentary.
It wasn't just words on a page. It was about something much bigger. It was, in this instance, I think it was a love story about sports, and just truly a love story.
Let me look at you both. You look good, boys.
So do you, sir.
The idea that Aaron sometimes has been criticized for being preachy or uplifting or so the hell what? Do you know? It's a better way to see the world and a better way to view it.
We're still waiting for Trans World Dome, but your team's on the field.
I think it's strange that Isaac isn't here.
When was he supposed to get in?
He said he'd be here well before the show started.
Of course, a huge episode that stands out for me. We were in the middle of shooting one when Robert Guillaume had a stroke.
That day started, as I like to think of it now, with a bit of foreboding.
It was Wednesday morning. And Wednesday's our first shooting day. We shoot Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, rehearse Monday, Tuesday. Robert Guillaume was in the first scene, and Tommy was directing the episode. I don't want to over-dramatize this, but it probably saved Robert's life, that Tommy was in a bad mood, because the actors had been called to the set, everything had been lit, we were ready, the actors had been called to the set, and they were all there except Robert, who was still up in his dressing room.
The phone is ringing, and I begin to take my clothes off to put the costume I'm going to wear on. And I fell over.
And Tommy finally, shouted at a PA, just go up there and get Robert out of his dressing room. The PA went up there and knocked on the door and let himself in. And Robert was unconscious on the floor. He'd had a stroke.
Bob, it's like a member of your family, and you're all so close and in each other's lives, so it affects you very personally.
There was no pressure from the network to find a replacement. If there had been pressure, it would have been met with a lot of resistance.
Hey, Robert. From all of us, we just want to tell you how much we miss you, and that the thought of doing this show without you, last week when you just weren't in the episode was really tough for us.
We made this video for him to sort of get better.
We're doing our best here, and we could never do this show without you.
Tommy, we got Garrett Morris from Saturday Night Live.
He's
Remember
great.
how good
Garrett,
he
actually,
was?
he was good on that.
Yeah.
We made him believe, we wanted him to believe that we just couldn't wait for him to come back while we were looking at headshots of Garrett Morris and various other people that could take his place.
Ben Vereen, he could be a singing, dancing boss,
Isaac,
kind of thing.
That'd be perfect. Anyway, we just, we really miss you. We'd never do the show without you. Never, ever. No one could replace you.
Sir
in any way.
James Randolph, apparently he was knighted.
And so it's just a great moment of watching everybody just stepped up and realize how much we missed and loved the guy.
Ozzie Davis is sort of young Robert Guillaume.
Yeah, that would work. Yeah, that would work. Will his wardrobe still fit? You think Ozzie can fit into his?
Yeah, sure, why not?
'Cause we can save some money that way too. That's great.
Absolutely.
I think everyone across the board just wanted to make sure, he was going to be okay and pull through.
Anyway, Robert, we want you to hurry back
Can't
as
do
soon
the
as
show
you
without
can.
you. Just come on back, and your job is here. We love you and we miss you.
Great. And you know what, Wilford Brimley, if we darken this.
Tommy and I went there and made it clear that if he wants to come back to work, nobody's going to be in Isaac's office.
We're going to put the plants here and curtains here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. And
And get rid of all this, African and that stuff, the
the boxing
boxing
glove.
glove.
Yeah,
Great.
all that's
And
gonna
we
go.
can feminize this. Well, actually,
we're gonna get already.
maybe this is already too feminine.
And I remember Tommy and Aaron getting together, and the way that they phrased it was, when Robert comes back. And that was the way it was always phrased, was when Robert comes back.
He made a remarkable recovery, but even a remarkable recovery means your speech is going to be a little slurred, and you're going to have to walk with a cane. You're going to have to do that.
We never discussed it, but he had such faith that it was going to be all right.
So I told Robert, here's what I'm up for if it's okay with you. I'm going to give Isaac a stroke, okay? And so in season 2, all this stuff will be explained. The reason why he's slurring his words, the reason why he can't move around a lot.
Isaac had a stroke at the airport. I don't know any more than that.
Oh my God.
I remember being very nervous about and trying to figure out the right way to do it, and was the final episode of the first season. And not just because of the way Aaron had written it, but also because of Robert coming back to the show.
Those first few days were filled, as I said, with dread for me, because I could not see any continuation of what I had been doing for 35, 40 years.
Now I want something good to happen. I want something good to happen before the day is over, and I'll be the judge of what's good. One good thing before the day is over. I swear, that's all I want.
Hey, lady, are you thinking about getting my show on the air anytime soon?
Isaac.
And actually, it's very emotional now. Because it was so unbelievably emotional. It truly was.
It made you well up, and you realized that we had all waited for this moment on a creative level and on a human level.
It's a beautiful sort of Aaron Sorkin entrance. And he did the line, and the camera was on Felicity, and Felicity's face was just to see Robert walking and sort of coming. And then when I said cut, it was this spontaneous applause, and it wouldn't stop.
Getting a little choked up talking about him because he loved that role and he loved the show. And I wish for him, that it could have gone on longer.
I look back at the episodes with certainly a lot of affection and a lot of pride.
I have always summarized it the same way. I think it's some of the best 2 years of my professional life. It was the hardest I think I've ever worked. I learned so much, mainly by making mistakes. I just feel so truly lucky to have been chosen to be a part of that.
Well, I definitely cut my teeth in terms of being a film actor on Sports Night. Although it's difficult to articulate what I learned, I know that most of what I've learned as a film actor really took place then.
It was just a blast. I mean, you would walk into work in the morning and really feel as if you were just making TV, and just in that wonderful creative sense of the word, where you just were creating something really unique and really special every day.
As an executive producer, as the boss, you learn along the way. You learn, how to make a place that people are excited to come to and work.
The thing I take most from the experience was the relationships with people, on the show, my fellow actors and the crew.
The combination of the group, the quality of the writing, and Tommy's generosity to me in terms of mentoring and just counsel. And I do have to say it was probably the best experience I've had working in television.
I feel very, very lucky. You'd be surprised how lucky you become once you know what you're doing. And the other one is luck has a way of rewarding those who do not depend on it.
Sports Night was the jumping off place for me. It was the beginning of a larger and more meaningful career in television and in this business. It was my springboard. And I look back gratefully and fondly. And again, I wish that we had been able to make more.
Through the years, as sort of time goes by, I look back and it's a show that I'm very proud of. I think everybody did outstanding work on it.
If I had known exactly what the finite amount of time I would have had with it, I would have treasured every moment more.
As much as I deserved anything, it was sort of a crowning achievement for me to have come so far in the business.
I feel so lucky. It's not to say that it was all great, it was fun, but I should be slap silly to sort of say, yes, I have regrets. I know, I'm very lucky.
I don't have any agenda other than I'm trying to captivate you for however long I've asked for your attention.